and welcome to No Recipe Required. Hope you're doing well. I'm Dave. Thanks for stopping by. Tonight I'm going to show you how to make a pesto with almonds, or basil pesto with almonds. Traditionally it's used with, or it's made with pine nuts, but you know, there's no reason why you can't swap out different ingredients. Obviously it changes things up a little bit, but hey, change is good. Let me show you how to do it. Okay, let's go ahead and make our basil. Now, what I've got here, this is a full bunch at the store, and I've just pulled off, you know, the biggest stems. I don't really worry about if I've got some of that stem there, you know, the medium size. That'll all it'll all be just fine. This is about, I'd say, 2, you know, loosely packed cups worth of basil, and I'm dropping it into some boiling water, really just to blanch it and cook it just a tiny bit. I prefer this method. If you want to keep it raw, you can certainly do that. I've seen some people do that. You do want to make sure it's nice and clean, and then you also want to have an ice bath, which is really just exactly what it sounds. Water with some ice, nice and chilly, standing by, because we're going to remove the basil from the water, drop it in the ice bath to shock it, stop the cooking process, and preserve that nice green color. Okay, my basil's done, so I'm just going to slide that over. We'll turn that burner off, and I'm going to drop the basil, like I said, into my cold water, and this is going to help set that color. One of the things you really want in a pesto is to have that nice bright green color, and you know, doing this will certainly help preserve that. So let me just I'm just going to let this cool, then remove the leaves again after a minute and drain them well on a paper towel. We've got our basil here that I've just blanched off. Now, one of the nice things about pestos is that 20 seconds of blanching the basil, that's about the only cooking we're going to need to do. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to my basil, a little bit of pepper. Now, this pesto, we're using almonds. I've got, well, almonds. They're peeled here. You can use unpeeled. You can use almost any nut you want. This happens to be an almond basil pesto. And I'd call that, you know, maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons. You know, I don't really measure a whole lot. It's kind of by feel. About the same amount in terms of volume of Parmesan cheese I sprinkle in there. I like to put a little bit of lemon juice. So squeeze in there, just maybe a teaspoon or so. And then some olive oil. And that's going to kind of hold everything together. Then we drop our top back on. We give it a few pulses. It usually helps like that when you're mixing things, to pulse a few times, get things started, and then you can turn it on and let it go full bore. This will probably take you know, a minute or two before it really becomes nicely homogenized. So, about halfway through, you're going to have to come down and kind of scrape down the sides. The blades are going to throw some well, pesto, some basil, some nuts up on the edges, and you got to get those done. And then what I realized I forgot to add were a couple cloves of garlic. Pretty key ingredient to a pesto like this. I like to just give it a good whack on my cutting board, flatten it out, make the blades a little bit easier to, or make it a little easier for the blades to chop through it. If you forget it like this, no problem. You just add it in later and pulse again. Okay, so I've got the pesto down to the consistency that I'm looking for. You know, some people like it chunkier, some people like it smoother. Really a matter of personal preference. Just gave it a taste. That was definitely missing that garlic the first time. But we are good to go, and let's go ahead and just plate this up in a little bowl. Okay, we've got our pesto fully made, blended. You can obviously use this in a ton of different ways. You know, it takes to all kinds of meat and fish really well, both as a crust or as a sauce on the plate. If you want to use it as a sauce, you can you know, just thin it out a little bit with a little bit more olive oil, maybe some lemon juice. And then clearly it's awesome with pasta as well. But however you want to use it, it's going to be delicious. Basil and almond pesto. I'll see you next time on No Recipe Required.